100%, man. You mentioned fighting Alistair Overeem. He's the guy that sort of up and down throughout his career is, has proven to be taking some substances that may or may not have been legal. When you fought him, was there any thought in your mind that, looking back at that he may have been partaking in some extra vitamins?
Yeah.
I'm trying to put this as politely as I can without incrementing anybody here. So, yeah, I
Look,
think
that was the year that he got the nickname Overeem. So it was 2010, October 2. That was Overeem. That was him at his Uberist.
That was when he beat Lesnar, wasn't it? When he fucking
he fought Lesnar in 2011, in December 2011. I fought him in October 2010. So I fought him the year that he won the K1 tournament. So I think he got saucy in 2009, and then the end of 2010, he was just an absolute specimen. He had like veins in his abs, and I think he was 116 kilos ripped. But I got no beef with him at all, man. They said in our contracts with K1, they say you like capital letters, you will not get drug tested. That's why I was the only fat guy.
Jesus, that's nuts. Like, because that's crazy. Because but how many times have you seen that in your career where it's like no drug test will be required? Like, is that's a pretty. Okay, so that was only in Japan. So they wanted guys to be juiced to the fucking gills.
Yeah.
It's like,
Europe as well. I definitely fought some saucy guys over there for like super combat and things like that. But in Japan, they don't care. They just, the bigger the better. Whatever looks cool on TV. You got guys like Bob Sapp, and they love the freak shows. And that's their niche. UFC's got the best of the best. Pride in that, and K1 used to put on the freak fights and stuff, and it was, mate, I loved it. I still
watch Pride. I still go back and watch Pride shows,
mate. Yeah, I love it, mate. I was the most hardcore fan. I had all the video tapes. Loved it. So I've got no beef with Overeem. I wouldn't mind fighting him now, though. He's turned into a vegan and he's super skinny. So if he wants a rematch, hit me up.
Hey, we might be able to make that happen in Enduro. Main event.
I'd only fight in kickboxing. I think his submissions are a bit too good for me. He had a pretty good guillotine back in the day.
Yeah, man. But dude, fighting Overeem back then, like, did you know going in there looking at him going, all right, this guy's on some shit?
100%. Like, it wasn't a secret. Like, most of the guys there were pretty juiced up. But I didn't care. I didn't feel any more nervous for that fight than any other fight. And I went there for 30 seconds. I said, I'm just going to try and blow this dude out of the water. And if he's still standing there after a minute, then I'll just deal with it then. And I was 26. I was 26 years old. Yeah. I knew I was out of my depth, but I knew if I landed one, I'd be sweet. But, if I fought that fight,
life-changing if you knocked him out, if he landed one.
Yeah, but you know what? If I was just, it was way overmatched, and that's what the Japanese do. They put the best guy with the newest guy because they want the big knockouts. They're not thinking about long-term investments for people's careers and all that sort of thing. But it's cool, and they got great highlight reels. And if I had that fight now or a week after the fight, it'd be a completely different fight than what it was. But being 26 years old, I've gone from fighting in Canberra to fighting, he was arguably the best fighter in the world that year. Like, he was working towards a fight with, Fedor at the time before he lost to Verdum. So, I'm proud of that. And whatever happened. And it still made that fight got mentioned to me every week, if not every day, for a year after. Plus, it still gets mentioned to me, but it's cool. Well, I'm happy with it.
Oh, that's it, man. How did do you find nowadays that sort of like the drug use per se is sort of died down a lot in the sport?
Well, since USADA, got involved, especially with the UFC, there's a lot of people deflated and started losing consecutive fights and gassing out and not being able to control people like they used to. And I think it's great. It's just it's so hard to implement on the smaller shows and stuff because it's such an expensive process to run. And then you got to deal with all the potential lawsuits coming in and all that sort of thing. So it's very messy. But I think it's great what the UFC is doing. I don't know how many millions a year that costs them with USADA to have them involved, but I think it's great for to have a clean sport, especially in combat sports. It's not like baseball where you're just hitting the ball out of the park and it's awesome.
100%.
You know, you're bouncing brains around in there, you know, and you're banging shins and, you know, again, life-changing consequences.
Do those substances, do you feel impact, like you feel like a clean fighter versus a fighter that is on the gear has no chance in a fight or has only a puncher's chance?
Oh, it depends. A fight is a fight, and anything can happen. I'm sure there's been a lot of natural guys that have been a lot of juiced up guys, but you know, there's so many variables in that equation. You know, there could be a very good fighter who's knows he's not going to get drug tested, who's going to take steroids and be the best version of himself he can possibly be, or you can have the insecure guy who just wants to have the big muscles to intimidate his opponent, who's going to crack under pressure anyway, who's a front runner. So it just depends on each individual person. And I'm sure, I know there's been a lot of natural guys that have been a lot of juiced up guys, but if it wasn't even playing field and everyone was juiced up, that'd be a sight to behold.
Oh, dude, could you imagine like a in the prime Brock Lesnar versus an Alistair Overeem in the prime, like but both guys just full of gear.
Yeah, well, we saw it. Just the only issue was it was post diverticulitis Brock Lesnar, where he had 11 inches of his colon removed, and he had that fight like 6 or 7 months after like major surgery on his intestine.
Yeah,
and obviously Overeem just started.
That's why I said in the prime.
Yeah, like that would have been awesome.
But even then though, like Brock Lesnar as like an MMA fighter, like he wasn't really that well skilled in many areas, but like just the size of him and